Okay, it is 5:30, so the Norfolk Public School District's Board of Education meeting is called to order. Roll call.
Brenda Carhart. Present. Jake Clausen.
Here.
Tammy Day. Here. Leanne Whithelm.
Here.
Sandy Wolf.
Present.
All members are present. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. This is a legal meeting of the Board of Education as advertised by the means specified in board policy. A complete copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the boardroom for your review. A copy of the agenda is available at the desk of the recording secretary. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand and join us in reciting it. And if you kids want to start us, that would be great. Oops, just a minute. We got to get the flag out. Thank you. Okay, we begin with the presentation, special recognition, and focus on the students. Tonight it is Washington Elementary, and they are going to be doing their DIBS for kids. Mr. Speck, please.
Good evening, everyone. We appreciate everybody being here. We've got 12 of our finest students going to present on our DIBS program and tell you a little bit about it. I don't really want to say anything because I don't want to give anything away, so I'm going to turn it over to Mackenzie. Come down here a little bit, Mackenzie. And there you go.
In first grade, we began DIBS.
DIBS stands for Delivering Infant Bookshelves. With DIBS, we get to check out a book at our level and read it every night at home.
Each student reads an average of 84 books or more a year with DIBS.
Our most loved reading teacher, Mrs. Sponnell, valued reading at home and helped bring DIBS to our school.
Her family and friends honored her with a memorial to DIBS, which raised $5,000 for Washington. Our friends at DIBS, Marie Kovar and Angie Miller, then applied for a matching grant for us, and we received another $2,500 from Snow Red Fern. Each new book now purchased in our DIBS program is labeled in memory of Rhonda Sponnell on the back.
The first year of DIBS was just the first graders, and we read 5,172 books.
The next year, when we were second graders, we got to do DIBS again with the first graders.
This second year, we read 8,935 books.
The first and second graders continued to read 7,630 books last year, our third year of DIBS.
This year, the first and the second graders have read 2,385 books so far.
Now that we are fourth graders, we are so excited to do DIBS again.
Now, we will show you how we do DIBS.
All right.
Your sibling.
Oh, we got siblings? Okay, I didn't get them with siblings.
So they know.
Okay. Jacob right here, I think. Right here. grab someone. There we go. Better get some pictures. Better get some pictures. Oops. How's it going? Good job. I miss the Lord. We kind of had something else set up. What was it set up? We just were talking about our ELL program. Our ELL program had identified years ago. Lisa came in and said, "I think this would be a good idea." Yeah, that was a real good idea. I don't want to cut anything out. The kids will probably sit there and think you're wrong.
Time to cut them off. He told me so we figured out how to do this in ELL classrooms as well. I'm sure she'll let me.
Can you say that word?
Here's your 30-second warning. They're scared of him. They're scared of him.
We showed pictures of everybody that would be here tonight, and we voted on who we wanted. Nobody did. My teacher voice. We'll give you about a 30-second warning here before we'll wrap up. Thank you very much. High fives as you leave would be awesome. I'll just wrap up with a few words. You know, it's pretty amazing when you give kids opportunities, and this is what this is. It's an opportunity for kids to have a book in their hand every night if they choose to. And so it's just been a wonderful experience. And then with Mrs. Sponel and Mrs. Powicki starting this up, bringing this to us, and with Mrs. Sponel's memorial, it's going to give kids for years to come the same opportunity. So we're pretty excited for this in so many ways, and we just appreciate our families that allowed their child to come up and help present with this. And you guys did an amazing job. I know it's not always easy to stand up in front of a bunch of people, so great job. I'll open this up for any questions that you maybe didn't get answered by the kiddos. Yeah.
You said that you started this by donations. Can anybody donate to your cause to help your books multiply?
Yeah, I think if you go in Murray, I'm going to defer to you because I think this kind of goes with the.
Sure. So if you would specifically want to donate to Rhonda, that can still happen. Yes, Lisa? Yes, to that one. And then you could do an in-kind donation to DIS as well, and that we could put towards, Washington or Norfolk Public or towards the Rhonda's memorial. And then the other way that we obviously fund the program is through like grant opportunities and different things like that as well.
Great question.
That was wonderful. I love to see the kids. I mean, this is our favorite part, why we all serve on school board, for sure. And we love it that you're loving to read like that. And I know Mrs. Sponel was very important. She was awesome.
I just say thanks to the kids. It's kind of fun and kind of scary sometimes to have to read to grown-ups, but I know our little group did a great job, and I'm sure everybody else did too, so thank you so much. And parents for supporting your kids and bringing them here. And Mr. Sponel, this is a great program for us to see. No, not Mr. Sponel. I have Rhonda
Mr.
Sponel in
Sponel
my
is
brain.
here. He is here. Yeah.
No, but as soon as I
Mr. Speck, thank you. Thank you all for coming. And
I just want to say, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Jim Swanel. I'm Ron's husband. And on behalf of my family, thank you so much for this. This was such a passion for Rhonda, of Rhonda's. She loved the kids working at school. She loved working at Washington Elementary, and she was very proud to be a Norfolk Public School teacher. So thank you so much.
Okay, we have one more presentation to do for Washington, so I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Bauman and let you start that up.
And next up, we have the Award for Excellence.
Thank you. So coincidentally and unplanned, these are back-to-back Washington Elementary recognition. So we got to meet their great students for the focus on students, and then we also have an award for excellence, which is an award that is given out 5 times a year to a staff member that goes above and beyond and excels at their job and gets nominated by their peers or by students or by parents. And tonight's award goes to a Washington Elementary staff member who I'll talk about and make a little uncomfortable up here. Brittany Newland, could you come join me up here? So Brittany is the health tech at Washington Elementary, and she was nominated by a variety of staff members at Washington. I will read a few of the things that were said about Brittany, and I will give her all of the things that were said, because there were many wonderful comments and reasons that our committee should choose Brittany for this award. Some of the things that were said is that Brittany is a team player and works hard to create a positive working environment. She not only helps in the nurse's office, but she also helps throughout the entire building. She is committed to her job and very professional. This individual said, I have never seen her respond with anything other than kindness when approached by a student or staff member. She has a special gift of calming down the students that are in distress, which I'm sure in the nurse's often, at times, a little bit of blood can seem like a very big deal. So I'm sure that is necessary. This one caught my attention. She is also a renowned baker, feeding the staff often with her fabulous treats. So good to know. And just, I mean, front and back, many great comments. So I will send her with a copy of this. She gets a plaque. She gets a $50 gift card for her to use at Hy-Vee that Hy-Vee donates for us. So we appreciate Hy-Vee sponsoring this award. And in working with Mr. Specht, they will determine what they want to use $500 for in the building. So together they'll come up with something. I'm imagining they've already brainstormed or made a wish list a little bit. So that will be exciting for the students to find out what they end up doing with that money for the building. Mr. Specht, would you like to say a few words? Oh, yes. I figured.
Okay, I've got two really important points in regards to Brittany. The first of which there's so many wonderful things to say here, but I know she comes to me all the time when she knows that there's something that needs to be done. So I don't even have to go to her, and that's just so amazing that she kind of recognizes those moments and is able to step forward and help our staff and our students out in any way possible. And then number two, but probably most importantly, she is the best. She's a good baker, but she is the best at scaring our custodian, Jim Simonson, almost every day. She helps bring a lot of smiles to our faculty and our staff and our students, and she just brings our culture up tremendously. So we just appreciate her so much.
Brittany, would you like to speak? I told her she would have the opportunity to speak, but we would not require her to speak.
I'd just like to thank everybody for the kind words that they all said, and I'm very honored to accept this award. And I love working at Washington with all the students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Your gift card and a copy of that. Okay, yes, thank you.
Congratulations, Brittany. Now, if you would like to sneak out parents and students, or you are welcome to stay for the next several hours for our school board meeting. And any of you in the back row, if you'd like to move to the front, you are more than welcome to change seats. Okay, we are to the board candidate interviews and appointments. A seat on the Norfolk Public School Board of Education is open due to the resignation of Dr. Jenna Hatfield-Waite. This open position was advertised in the Norfolk Daily News and on our NPS website. 7 candidates submitted applications. Those applications were reviewed by veteran board members, and 4 were chosen to be interviewed tonight. The order of interviews was determined by a random drawing and is listed below. First will be Beth Shashikant, second will be Kenneth Ramsey, third will be Sashaya, I apologize if I said Sasha. Thank you, Sasha. Sasha Bond, and 4 will be Ben Collins. Each candidate will be asked the same questions. Therefore, we will ask the candidates to leave the room while the others are being interviewed. At the completion of interviews, sitting board members will discuss the candidates' qualities and attributes, focusing on strengths right here in front of all of you. Once the discussion is complete, the board president will ask for nominations to fill the empty board seat. Nominations may be made by any board member, and several nominations may be made before a vote. If more than one candidate is nominated, the candidate that receives the majority of votes will be chosen, appointed to the seat. Each school board member may only cast 1 vote for a nominated candidate. Voting will occur via roll call due to limitations of our electronic voting system, Spark. Ballots are not allowed for board appointments. The motion will be, I make a motion to appoint the candidate with the majority of votes to fill the open seat on the MPS Board of Education. If no candidate receives a majority vote, 3, the board will discuss candidates further and go through the nomination and voting process again until a candidate receives the majority vote, 3, or until the board has voted 5 times. If the board fails to fill a vacancy on the board after 5 votes, the vacancy will be filled by election at a special election. Once a candidate is selected via board vote or special election, he or she will be seated at our next regularly scheduled board meeting on December 12th and will remain seated until after the next general election, November 2024. Okay, are you ready? Okay,
Yeah,
so
so if-
everybody but, who's first? Beth, please, well, you don't all have to leave the room. Kenneth, Sasha, and Ben. To the soundproof booth, please. Exactly so. Ben, okay, Beth, if you would like to come forward to the seat in the front. You're one of the waters as well.
And this is on, so, okay.
Thank you, Beth, for your interest in serving on the MPS Board of Education. Each board member will ask you 1 pre-selected question in order to help them determine which candidate to appoint to our empty seat. Do you have any questions before we begin?
I do not.
Okay. Would you please start by telling us about the qualifications that you bring to the board?
Sure. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for considering my application. I'm honored to be here tonight as part of this process. I received a bachelor's in science from St. Mary's College in Notre Dame, Indiana in 1998, after which I attended graduate school earning a PhD in physiology at Temple University School of Medicine in 2004. My husband and I have lived all over the country. We have 4 children, and between my schooling at both public and private institutions and my children's schooling at a variety of size schools, parochial schools, public schools, I just feel like I am aware of a lot of the needs that schools face and things that children should be given to further their education. So I would like to bring that experience to the board.
Great. Hi, Beth.
Hi.
Thanks for being here. First question from me. What do you see as the major issue or issues facing the school district, and why?
I want to be clear that I'm not here out of any sense of alarm for either real or perceived issues facing the board. My family has lived here in Norfolk for almost 2 years, and so far I've been very pleased with the education that my children are receiving here in the public schools, and the work that I see that the board is doing. I know that there are issues like teacher retention and getting good teachers to fill roles, and just meeting the needs of all students. You know, there's a variety of socioeconomic backgrounds, there's a variety of educational abilities and learning styles, and I think we just need to do our best for each individual student.
Thank you. We write slow, so feel free to
That's okay.
keep talking. No.
Sorry about that. Thank you for being here. Really glad to have you. Beth, what does the NPS mission of ensuring that all students are prepared to meet their goals for the future mean to you? Part one. Part two is, what is your vision for Norfolk Public Schools in the next 5 years?
So I think a strong public school system is a boon for the community, making sure that our students are prepared to be successful in life and to be good citizens. I think that means different things for different students. For some, that may mean going on to higher education. For some, that may mean learning a trade. And for others, that may just be, you know, getting their high school degree and, you know, being a productive member of society in some way. So I think there's not a one-size-fits-all approach for students. And from what I understand so far, I think that Norfolk Public Schools has a good program for the academy, innovation academies, I think they may be called, you know, different career paths. So I think to keep those strong is important, and just, again, meet the students where they are and ensure that everybody can be a producing member of society in the future. What was the second part of the question?
Great question there. What is your vision for Norfolk Public Schools if you were put onto the board, and what would your vision for the next 5 years be?
Again, just keeping a strong school system, maintaining community involvement, getting in good teachers and keeping good teachers, again, to ensure that all of our students get the best education they can.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
So Beth, do you have students currently enrolled at Norfolk Public Schools? How have you been involved with their experience, and do you have any positive or negative situations you would like to share?
I currently have 3 children in the public school system. My daughter Mary is a junior at the high school. My daughter Maggie, who's sitting back there, is in 7th grade at the junior high, and my son Henry is in 6th grade at the middle school. So far, I have been pleased with the education that they're receiving. They all enjoy going to school every day, or most days, as is with kids. So, you know, I don't have any red flags with that. And again, we're relatively new to the school system. So I don't have any concerns. I have not been as involved here in these schools in my previous places we've lived. I have been very involved in the kids' schools, helping out in the classroom, helping out in the library, the reading program, all sorts of things. But as my kids get older, you know, there's kind of less of that need to be in the schools, in the classrooms. So I haven't done that here, which is one reason why I'd like to be on the board, is because I believe strongly in education for my kids and their peers, and I would like to volunteer my time to do that.
Thank you.
Hi, Beth.
Hi.
Could you share with the board your reasons for wanting to be a member of the Norfolk School Board, and what interests have led you to this decision?
So as I just mentioned, I have been very involved in my kids' educations. You know, my children, most of them went to cooperative preschools, so you know, parents were always in helping out in various ways. And then, you know, as they moved on through elementary school, I just like being hands-on. I like getting to know their friends. I like getting to know their teachers and the other parents. I'm sorry, I've lost track of the question.
My question.
Oh,
Okay.
what has led me?
Right,
Yes,
what has led you
okay,
to-
gotcha. Sorry about that. So again, for myself, I've always loved learning. You know, I was one of those kids that looked forward to going back to school every year, and I would like, you know, all kids to have that. I would like all kids to love to learn, and I just want to help out in any way. You know, the community of Norfolk has welcomed us very warmly as a new family, and so another reason I'm here is because I want to give back to the community. And so I, you know, saw a need, and I'd like to fill that role.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
Question, do you believe you will have the sufficient time to dedicate to the work of the board?
I do. I am a stay-at-home mom, and my kids are getting older. My youngest is 11, so they don't need me quite as much around the house all day. And I would love to have something to occupy my time. I, you know, love to learn in any role. I love to learn from other people, and you know, being out of academia and not having a job outside of the home, I have a lot of time on my hands, and I get bored, and I like adult company, and so I think I will have a lot of time and will be eager to spend time learning about the issues and doing my job. Thank you.
The tough questions are over, Beth.
Excellent.
Is there anything else you would like to share with the board? Final remarks.
Again, I just want to thank you for considering my application. I am thrilled to be here, and if I am selected to fill the position, I promise you that I will work hard to educate myself and learn from each of you and to do the best I can for Norfolk Public Schools.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You don't have to leave the room because you've already in. You can sit and listen.
Yeah, this is your mic. I just used a Clorox wipe on it, so I was trying to let it dry. Okay. It's pretty dry.
Wonderful. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello, Kenneth. Thank you for your interest in serving on the Norfolk Public School Board of Education. Each board member will ask you one pre-selected question in order to help them determine which candidate to appoint to our empty seat. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No, that makes
Okay.
sense. Thank you.
Okay, please start by telling us about the qualifications you bring to the board.
Yes, I guess with that, I would really like to start, you know, with a little bit of background with me. Basically, I grew up in Lubbock, Texas, kind of bounced around to different states and different schools, kind of grew up in a, you know, the low-income side of the, you know, community and involved with foster care and moving around with that. So I've been involved and integrated with a lot of the public school systems and government systems and all these programs that are out there to benefit children and benefit the community at large. And so I do have an understanding of, a deep understanding of how important and how crucial those things are. So after that, I was able to basically, you know, speak with my counselors and find a way to graduate early, join the military, and made my way back to Nebraska, which I used to live here in Pilger, in a smaller community over there. Love this community, which is why I wanted to come back. Great people. So that was something that I was really interested in, and at least coming here and being a part of this community where I could actually, help out. And I love giving back to the community. Even being in the military has taught me a lot. So I've been in the military as a specialist and had lots of other roles within the military to, whether it was like a student master sergeant, under, setting policy and control for, I guess all the males in the barracks, things like that. So it's just trying to set up a schedule and timeline and policies when it comes to that. So there's a little bit of background with that as well. But when I moved here to Norfolk, I met my lovely wife, and we have 3 children. Our kids did end up going to the public school system here for a while, and that was a really good experience for us. But basically, we, I guess the experience that we had was we really liked Grant, is where our kids ended up going to school, and so we were involved with the PTO, doing different community outreach programs like that with the Dr. They did the Dr. Seuss thing and the primetime reading. There was the other entities when it comes to with our church. We're also involved with that, and I know that there's lots of other communities like the Lions Club and Kiwanis and stuff like that. I was a part of the Noon Optimist Club, which met on Fridays at noon, kind of thing. We were talking about how we can help out the communities and do stuff there. So I've been involved in a lot of these different entities to try to help out the community where I can. And so basically, with all those kind of integrated together, and with my church as well, I'm deeply involved with my worship team, the security team, working on rewriting the Constitution, different policies, stuff like that. So with a lot of the experience, whether it be military, whether it be my personal experience, a lot of that kind of rounds me out, I think, for this position anyway.
Kenneth, first question is from me. What do you see as a major issue or issues facing the school district, and why?
Yeah, I think, I guess when it comes to issues, I guess, per se, I know when we were a part of the parent-teacher organization there at Grant, we noticed that we've seen some, underfunding issues when it comes to having that parent-teacher organization and how that money was being used. I know there was lots of ways that the community would, there'd be raffles or be able to find ways to be able to gather funds for that. But I noticed that a lot of the times administratively, some things would be like, well, we need to use this over here. Maybe we need different laptops or iPads or something like that. And so that money would be kind of used somewhere else, leaving that PTO program kind of high and dry with trying to follow up with the next program that they were trying to do for the children. So I think that was one that was really, that stood out to me. I think, I've been to a few of the meetings and stuff. I think, obviously just making sure that we have transparency and we have a good liaison, between the school, what's happening with the school policy, and the parents, I think that's very important. And not saying that, there's not policies and things in place for that, but that was, finding a way to maybe make that access easier, maybe what maybe the school policies are, the syllabus, or what it may be, maybe easier way to make sure that everyone feels comfortable sending their kids here for their curriculum, whatever kind of, policies, or making sure there's no anti-bullying, in class, things like that. So I think having that well-rounded is important.
Thanks, Kenneth. Yes. I think I can probably speak for everybody when I say thanks for your service to our country as well. But my question is a two-parter. Okay. First, what does the NPS mission, Norfolk Public Schools mission of ensuring that all students are prepared to meet their goals for the future, mean to you? And the second part is, what is your vision of Norfolk Public Schools for the next 5 years if you were on this board?
Right. Yeah, well, to be able to, meet the what the children need. Obviously, we want to, like, the way I understand it is to make sure that we're preparing the students to be able to, withstand the tasks in life that needs to be done, whether it's academically, so they can make sure that they can, pursue their goals through, different college, different things like that, or, even just, through maybe knowing how to change a tire, or be able to, apply for a loan, or budget, do budgeting or something along those lines. And I know that there's accounting classes and stuff like that, which is very helpful, but I just, I think that having practical policies like that and academic, scholastic ways to like make sure that they at least have like what's the word I'm looking for? Run into those and actually experience that like in real life, like, hey, how to actually overcome that, those issues and learn firsthand. I think those are important. And then as for, striving, I guess, for the next 5 years, I think, I guess what I see is very important for the students overall, for the next group of kids that are coming through, especially coming out of COVID and things like that. It's just to be able to, have that one-on-one, teacher, face-to-face and like, real life experiences, whether it be through the experiments, in science class or things like that. I think we want to, I think having it more as a practical understanding for just the application process, just so they're so much more comfortable coming in and going through, and so when they make it out into this world, they're just like, they're not completely blindsided by life as it hits them. I think they'll be more prepared. I think that should be the main focus, for most of the kids, so we can make sure that we provide, or basically create, well-educated and responsible students that can, really be the best in Norfolk and Nebraska and, across the country would be great. So they can say, hey, these kids are from Norfolk. They're really bright. They're really, strong. So that's the way that I see the importance there.
Thank you.
You've kind of answered this already. Kenneth, do you have students currently enrolled at Norfolk Public Schools? And how have you been involved with their experiences at Norfolk Public Schools? And do you have any positive or negative situations you would like to share?
Yes, so as I mentioned before, my kids were part of Grant and the Grant school system there, and the kids actually really did enjoy doing those things. As I said, we loved the Dr. Seuss, and the carnivals that they had too as well. They loved their teachers very much, so that was really promising there. I think where the disconnect, where I felt a little bit odd or off, and I think everybody felt this way, was when COVID hit. It was just like, hey, what's the best course of action for our children? What's the best course of action, policy-wise? Just like, well, what's practical, what's not. And for us, I think the practicality came down to, having that person-to-person education, as well as, like, I know wearing masks all day was a really big thing. And so I wasn't a huge fan of having my kids just wearing a mask all day, every day. And I heard that the Christ Lutheran, which is where they attend now, actually, they were more centered. They had a smaller system, right? They had a smaller school count, a child count. So they were able to, like, basically keep the kids where they were spaced out well enough, right? And they ended up moving the teachers from class to class. And so it was a little bit more, I guess, it just worked better, I think, for the way that our kids needed, at the time. So that's why they ended there.
Could you share with the board your reasons for wanting to be a member of the Norfolk School Board, and what interests have led you to this decision?
Yes. So once again, I feel like, that there's a need. I said, I've showed up to some of the meetings and stuff like that, and I've seen a lot of, discourse saying, oh, everything's extreme one way or everything's extreme the other, sometimes on, maybe what's in the curriculum, or like, how dare you, bring up some, how do I say that? Like, maybe, sexual education standards or whatever it may be. I know that there was a lot of divisive stuff with that, and I don't know, necessarily how that works within the board itself, but my goal and the way that I've been able to do with a lot of the committees and stuff that I'm a part of through my church or through these other member-based entities is to basically be that neutral ground, to be able to understand and at least be able to say, hey, here, this is in a respectful way, this is the way that I can absolutely see their understanding from, and this is the way that I can see this person understanding from, and maybe there's some middle ground here. Let's find that middle ground. We can, de-escalate a situation or do something like that. And I think that's where my military experience has come into play too. Just being able to understand things through objective metrics as well. So.
Do you believe that you will have sufficient time to dedicate to the work of the board?
Yes. Now that especially I have a job where I do work from home, which is really convenient. I was a designer for the past 5 years, and I was super busy doing some engineering stuff like that. So I didn't have a lot of time for doing much of anything. But now I'm in a new role under customer service, which is really convenient. So I know that at the end of the day, when customer service clocks out, I'm able to be there. And so I'm grateful to be more present for my children and be able to be a part of these community events. I feel like if you want to make sure that things are taken care of, or you want to make any kind of change or kind of move forward, and help out with the community where it's needed, you got to be the person that does it, because it just doesn't happen by itself.
Okay, Kenneth, the end. Oh, my microphone keeps wanting to go. That's the end of our difficult questions.
Okay.
Is there anything else you would like to share with the board?
I think really, I just really want to thank you for all the time and the consideration that you guys have, had into being able to make sure that our kids are taken well care of. I would be more than happy to, be that individual that can kind of hopefully go through, and maybe a younger individual that maybe, I don't know what your past experiences are, but, have been through these rough times and rough trials, like, hey, this is where I know that things were needed, and things that I really appreciated from my counselors or from the meal programs that I had, and different things like that. So I loved school. It was my safe space for me to be able to go, and it did wonders for me. And I want to make sure that we offer that. It's something that if I can at all help, offer that for all the children that are out there, whether they're in affluent neighborhoods or not. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenneth.
Thank you.
I am sorry. That was totally my fault. I apologize. Hello, Sasha.
Hello.
Thank you for your interest in serving on the Norfolk Public School Board of Education. Each board member will ask you one pre-selected question in order to help them determine which candidate to appoint to our empty seat. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No.
Okay. Please start by telling us about the qualifications you bring to the board.
Okay. I think most of you guys, I'm assuming, have read kind of like my summary and things like that. So as far as experience, just kind of going through, I started actually working as a drug and alcohol counselor first, and then I decided to continue my passion, and I got my mental health master's degree. My history of being just a facility co-director at the Link is another big thing. Been active, involved in just board-related discussions, decisions. A big thing that I find really, as far as my experience goes, that I think would really benefit and have my expertise to be part of the teamwork of the board is just like creating, developing, implementing financial budgets, policies and procedures, and of course, evidence-based curriculum. I'm kind of that nerd that enjoys just evidence-based information and using the statistical data that's out there to continue to help and promote, and especially if I was given the opportunity for the school board, is how can we utilize that stuff within our own school district and continue to strive for our students to meet their full potential. And then also just the experience in education alone. I'm an adjunct professor at Wayne State College. So typically what they have me do, recently this year this semester I'm not involved because they have enough teachers now. But in the past I really focused on the drug and alcohol side of things. That also includes just the family dynamic. Statistically, if you guys are not aware, 1 in 5 children have a mental health disorder. So if we look around this room, you can look, and if you have children, that's going to be one of your children as a potential. So I think it's really important, with my experience working in the behavioral health field, of utilizing those resources and how can we continue to help our children succeed and thrive.
That's me. I can't write and think. Hi, Sasha.
Hi, Dewey.
What do you see as the major issue or issues facing the school district and why?
Okay, I had brought my list. Sorry, guys, I did. So a couple things that I really found. One of them I would strongly look at is looking at teacher retention. We have amazing teachers in our school districts, and I think it's important as a board member we listen to those teachers to determine, how can we help them. I look at as a board as a sounding board for our teachers of how we can help them meet not only their potential, but also the potential for the children. So I think as it's our job to really help them get their goals met too. Some of the other areas like I said, of course, mental health and behavioral health is my passion. So of course, I think organizing and having the ability to be present for our students. And I will tell you, I know that's a lot to put on teachers. The biggest thing what I see as far as the struggle with that is students are more with teachers than they are at home. And then along with that is if we look at the statistical data of like single parent families, they're usually working at night. So I would like to really focus on how can we help our teachers in that area, maybe looking at some warning signs, doing some different types of programming or assemblies, things like that where we can help our teachers. And I think that also one of our highest, in my field specifically, is burnout is a high rate. I do not know the teacher rate, so if somebody knows that would be great off the top of your head. But I think if we help our teachers understand where even their own burnout rate is as a board, that's, I think, our responsibility to help them through that. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Hi, Sasha.
Hi.
What does the Norfolk Public Schools mission of ensuring all students are prepared to meet their goals for the future mean to you? And the second part is, if you were on this board, what is your vision for Norfolk Public Schools for the next 5 years?
So I actually am a huge follower of NAMI, which is National Alliance on Mental Health Illness. So I wrote this because I think it ties in with where our Norfolk board is. And so their mission is providing advocacy, education, support, and public awareness so that all individuals and families affected by mental illness can build better lives. I think within our school district, I think that falls right in line of where the teachers, the board, superintendents, administration, all of those, I think, have the same vision. And I think where I kind of fall in with that second part of your question is, I think having that passion, connecting, engaging, and just being very open-minded. And so part of that too, I think it's really important about having, being objective to serving all students, not breaking it down of, I always look at it as if you look at, what's the word I'm looking for? like agendas. I'm not one that has an agenda. Well, I do, and my agenda is literally to help all students regardless of race, discrimination, socioeconomic. Currently, and I'll kind of go off of that too, is I am the therapist for the Mommy and Me program at the Well. And so I deal with parents, single mothers, going through treatment that they have the opportunity to have their children involved in. Those children are involved in the Norfolk school system. And so if there are any teachers here, I want to thank those teachers because these mothers have never had the opportunity to be engaged. And the reports that I've gotten is their children are thriving in our school system. I actually found some stats too on just Nebraska, our math, our science, our reading. Those are all increasing in the state of Nebraska. I would like to compare that to Norfolk and just continue meeting those strides.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, Sasha, do you have students currently enrolled at Norfolk Public Schools? And how have you been involved with their experience at Norfolk Public Schools? And have you had any positive or negative situations you'd like to share?
So I have 5 children. I have a 10-year-old in the middle school. I have an 8 and 7-year-old at Bel Air, and then I have twins that are 3, so they're not quite there yet. The running joke is the twins are a boy girl. The older ones are all girls, so apparently it takes twins to get a boy in our family. So I think the biggest thing is, so before that, we just moved to Bel Air School District last year, or we actually started this year. Before that, we were at Woodland Park. So I have gotten to know, I'll start with Woodland Park first, because that's where I really started getting involved with a parent-teacher organization out there. Bruce Strong is part of that as the principal out there. He's absolutely wonderful, keeps everybody engaged if we have questions. As far as like teacher-wise, I have so many good things to say about Woodland Park teachers. And I think a lot of it, and I'm going to tie in Bel Air too, is anytime we have questions, they are there. I really enjoy having the Seesaw app, being well informed, and part of that teacher, just that communication is really big. My 8-year-old really struggled when COVID hit. She was going from 1st grade to 2nd grade, and we saw her, with the MAPS testing and everything really decrease. So I definitely reached out to the teachers, and we did what we could. They were very open and willing to help her get back. And I am proud to say that she is this close already to the HAL program. So the teacher, the positive is absolutely there. I don't have a lot of negative things to say.
Like that, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Sasha.
Hi.
Could you share with the board your reasons for wanting to be a member of the Norfolk School Board and what interests have led you to this decision?
I think one of the biggest pushes for applying for this position is just working with families in my current role. The experience, I have such a huge passion. Education is a core component of emotional, mental, and physical development. I see that daily. And so I think by giving the opportunity to run for this board position will really call it teamwork and utilize some of the expertise that's out there within the field to continue to promote what's best for our kids. Like I said, the 5 children with 3 of them already on there is going to be really important to just continue, again, working in the field with different populations and seeing where their struggles are, and just having that advocacy for all students, those that struggle, even those that are doing well, because I think it's important that we don't stop with, okay, let's just get everybody to this. No, let's make it available to have students continue to succeed and go above and beyond what sometimes we have expectations of what it should be, not what it should be, what it could be.
Do you believe you will have the sufficient time to dedicate to the role of the board?
Yes. So I actually talked to my director before I even applied because that was one of my things that I was concerned about. And so upon speaking with her, she goes, absolutely. My schedule is actually pretty flexible with the clients that I see and things like that, so that will not be an issue.
That's it, Sasha. Those are the tough questions. Is there anything else you would like to share with the board?
I guess, just to kind of wrap up is my biggest thing is my focus is one thing is it's on students. How to stay connected not only with students but the parents, continuing to engage both parents and students, being open-minded. Those are my, I would say, core reasons. I would say my core where I come in and where my passion is at is how to take that information, share it openly with teamwork with the board, and continue having our children succeed more than what they thought they could.
Thank you, Sasha. Now you can take a seat right in the audience.
Thank you.
Here's the hot seat for you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello, Ben. Thank you for your interest in serving on the Norfolk Public School Board of Education. Each board member will ask you one pre-selected question in order to help them determine which candidate to appoint to our empty seat. Do you have any questions before we begin?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, please start by telling us about the qualifications you bring to the board.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you. So just a little bit about me, I guess, to start, and then some qualifications. Was born in Norfolk, went to Elkhorn Valley High School, where I graduated, and then went on to UNL and got my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. Went into the career of medical device manufacturing after that. And during that time, I went on to get my MBA, my master's in business administration from Chadron State College. After that, about 5 years ago, I came to Cardinal Health in Norfolk as the engineering manager. That's kind of what brought us back as a family to Norfolk. During that time, I ended up leading 3 manufacturing plants from an engineering standpoint. I had about 150 people that worked for me, technicians and engineers. Really gave me good management experience that I think I would bring to the board, leadership experience. Did all the budgeting, capital management for that role. Then about 2 years ago, I moved into the corporate engineering team for Cardinal Health. And now I'm an engineering manager there, and I lead a small team of engineers, and we work on large projects. So cross-functional teams that we lead, a lot of collaboration, a lot of leading by influence in those teams. I think those skill sets would translate to this board. Oftentimes we don't have direct authority of the team members, the experts on the teams, and I think that leading by influence and driving that collaboration is something that I have experience in. Let's see. I think that answered more than you wanted to know, probably.
Hey, Ben.
Hi.
First question is from me. What do you see as a major issue or issues facing the school district, and why?
Sure. I guess the thing that sticks out to me is teacher retention as an issue. I think that gets a lot of publicity, definitely, and definitely is an issue in not just the school system, but all business lately. I think there's a lot to be said about it and a lot we can do about it. Obviously, pay is important. When we're looking at just the hierarchy of needs of our teachers, I think making sure they can meet their basic needs and pay their rent and support their families is huge. So I think that's something that we can focus on or look at. But beyond that, I think there's a lot more that can be done for teacher retention. I think teachers, would be a big focus for me on the board and supporting teachers. I think empowering and enabling teachers is important. That starts with trust and mutual respect between the teachers and administration and board. But then enabling as well. making sure they have the resources they need, tangible and intangible, that physical things that they need in their classroom, as well as the training that they need to be able to do their jobs well.
Hi, Ben.
Jake?
What does the Norfolk Public Schools mission of ensuring that all students are prepared to meet their future goals mean to you? And the second part would be, if you were on the board, what is your vision for Norfolk Public Schools in the next 5 years?
Sure. So, to me, the education, just like business, is continuously changing and advancing. And I think to make sure that our students are able to to succeed in their careers and in life, I think we have to also continuously advance, and that's very important to me. There's a section in the policies about innovation and experimentation, and I think that's very important. I think we can't be stagnant. I think when I look at my own kids being in the school system the next 12 years, I think what education is today and it will be in 12 years are going to be very different. And I think we have to make sure we're advancing to meet that. Industry needs are changing. Everything's changing in the world, and we have to keep up to be competitive and just to make sure our kids are ready when they get into the field, whether it's a career or further education. That's what that mission piece kind of means to me. What my vision for NPS, I think I kind of spoke to it with the teacher retention, but being a best place to work, a world-class, kind of a benchmark place to work, I think would be a vision to me. I think that can be done. We can, those things that I talked about with teacher retention, we can improve that and make this a place where people are knocking on the door to work. That's one thing I can kind of see as a vision. The other things are just keeping to building on what we have been doing, what the district has been doing. We just had our 5th Blue Ribbon school, the most in the state besides for Lincoln and Omaha. I think that's amazing. I think that's something we can keep improving on or keep, winning those awards. It says we're doing the right things. It's not about the awards, but it's about the progress. So I think we just keep building on what we've got, the career academies, the STEM maker spaces that are happening, all those things, just keep that momentum going.
Thank you.
Ben, do you have students currently enrolled at Norfolk Public Schools, and how have you been involved with their experience at Norfolk Public Schools? And do you have any positive or negative situations you would like to share?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yes, I have 2 daughters. They are at Lincoln Montessori in kindergarten and 3rd grade. Montessori, everything about Montessori has been fantastic in the years we've been there. It's a great fit. The Montessori method is a great fit for, I think, my family and my kids. It's really been working for them. I think it also speaks to the innovative spirit of the district. I think that's, find another public Montessori program. They're not out there. And that's something that was done, a couple decades ago here. So I think that really shows that, we have that innovative spirit. And like I said, Montessori's been great. Other examples of Montessori, the facility improvements that are happening, I think, show that the district is making the right investments, not just in Montessori. You've got Bel Air, you've got other schools that are making those improvements. So that's been fantastic. The staff and teachers at Montessori that we deal with are just great. They're accessible, they're transparent. Any information that I've ever wanted or my family's ever wanted or needed has been made available. So that's been fantastic. I don't think I could think of a negative situation to share, but I've got a couple positives from recent parent-teacher conferences. 2 things that came up just at the end. We went into one of our conferences and had a great conversation, had some time at the end, just asked the teacher about target-based grading and how that has changed, their teaching methods or things like that. And so we had some really good back and forth, open, transparent conversation, which was fantastic to hear from the teacher. Went down the hall to the other parent-teacher conference. Same thing, conference went real well, had some extra time. I think my wife actually asked, what can we do at home, to advance learning? And the teacher immediately had recommendations and, try, there's these workbooks or these flashcards. And she said then the next step she took was If you don't have access to those, let me know and I can help you with that. And that to me was phenomenal. That's above and beyond situation. And it just shows that our teachers are really here, for the kids.
Thank you, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Ben. Could you share with the board your reasons for wanting to be a member of the Norfolk School Board and what interests have led you to this decision?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, biggest reason, I spoke to it with my kids, but I do have 2 kids in the school system. I will have them in there for the next 12 years, so it's in my best interest to make sure that the school system is doing its best, and I think I can contribute there. Obviously, it's in all students' best interest as well, but that's kind of my, I guess, selfish reason for wanting to be part of the board. When I look at, I'm on the board at the Norfolk Arts Center, so I do a lot of volunteering. When I look at where to put my time, I look at what kind of impact can I make. And when you're thinking about, thousands of kids and staff, it's like a huge impact that you can make on this board. And you all know this, you're doing it today. So those are some of the reasons I, want to be involved with this board. And what was the second part of your question, Leanne?
And what, what have led you to this decision?
Yeah. Again, I guess that I kind of answered it. I continuously look at, where to volunteer time. My wife and I do a lot of volunteering. And so it's where can we make an impact, number one, that helps the community and helps our family, our kids. This just kind of ticks the boxes. And I think also I can contribute. I think my skill sets that I bring based on my education and work experience and experience on the Arts Center board can certainly contribute to the success of this school district. Yep.
Do you believe you will have sufficient time to dedicate to this school board?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, I do. So for several reasons. My work, the company I work for, is very supportive of community engagement. So they will be very supportive of this. My family also very supportive. My wife is here tonight. So we've talked about that quite a bit because I do know it's a big time commitment that you all have put into your time on the board. So I respect that and I acknowledge that, and I would make that commitment 100% to this board.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Those are the tough questions. Well, wait a minute. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I thought I was done.
No, if you're done, or if you want to do closing remarks, it's up to you.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you all, honestly, for the opportunity to be here, but mostly for your service to the district. I know it's a big time commitment like we just talked about, so I know you all put in that time, and it's for our children, so thank you for that.
Thank you. You can have a seat now in the audience. Okay. Is that the easy part or the hard part? I don't know. Because now, yes. So now we sit right here and talk about all of you. And as you can see, we have 4 very, very, very qualified candidates. So right now we will choose one, but before that we'll openly discuss some reasons why we might be leaning toward one or another. If anybody would like to start.
I don't know if I am leaning one way or the other yet, but I would certainly commend our 4 participants. Anytime you start a process like this, there's probably just a little trepidation of, well, who is going to apply and what's that going to look like? And obviously, we have 4 excellent candidates. So thanks to all of you for your interest, certainly, and your time. I think that all of them really did a pretty good job of expressing what was important to them, and generally speaking, I think that was the kids, which is why we're all here. So I feel pretty good about that. I know that Sasha had mentioned, emotionally and physically trying to help students where they are in those 2 things, which I liked, or that sort of rang a bell for me. And I think Kenneth, let me see, sorry, real quick. I think that he mentioned that school was a safe space for him, and I think that's another really key thing that we always, or I think all of us really want to make sure we're creating that environment for all of our students. So Again, this isn't necessarily an endorsement one way or the other. I apologize, but I thought those were both great comments.
I want to commend the four, too, for coming. It seems like you have the kids at heart, and you're in it for the right reasons, and that's why you're here. And so I appreciate that. I do, just coming off of the Norfolk Public Schools Strategic Planning Committee, a lot of these things that the four people, candidates have brought up tonight were a lot of things that we talked about at that meeting. So it's nice to see that we're all on the same page going into this next 5-year cycle. I do, the ones of you who have children in the district, that's great that you get involved with your schools. That's really nice to see. I do like to, when Sasha talked about that her involvement in being the drug and alcohol counselor and the mental health issue, that is just such a vital part of what we're going into in the next 5 years. And so being hired, the new mental health practitioners in the schools to help us with that. But I think with some background on that issue would be great to have. And then also her talking about the teacher retention, that's very important. And I think about everybody talked about the teacher retention, so that's in the eyes of everybody. And Ben, I liked your leadership skills and your job that you're in now, and your involvement with your children in your school. And I like how you brought up the innovative spirit of the district, that hopefully we're going in the right forward progress, that not just staying where we're at, but you see that you see the innovation with your kids in school, and you want to continue that, and you're at that's your best interest. And just, let's see. I think I'll stop now and then see what everybody else thinks.
They were all good, like everybody said. I'm probably leaning towards Ben Collins and Beth Shostakant, because I felt they came across as very well educated. They wanted to do the best for each student. Beth talked about getting prepared and the time, strongly believe it in education in general, that a lot to learn, that she would put the time in to learn things. Ben, I also liked the innovative. He looked more future-oriented, what we could do, how we could grow, be better. Continuous advancement, I wrote. Experiment, not stagnant. I like that about him. And that he also, both of them had kids in school. I thought that was important, so I leaned to those two.
Tammy's still thinking. It's difficult, as you all can imagine, as we sit here right in front of you, because you sat and listened to everything, and every single candidate here had amazing qualities. And I don't need to go and say everything that everybody else said, but it's really difficult to do, because we look at different things. And we do know that everybody, that's what's so great about having our board, is everybody has different qualities. I like to look at what somebody is bringing that some of us don't have right
Yeah, that's a
here.
good point.
So I think it's nice to get some balance. I think that Beth brings some balance with her different schools she's been at and her kids there. I liked her positive attitude. I love that she just continued to say she loves to learn, and that's what we're here about, is our kids learning and our kids loving to learn. And then that somebody's been serving our country is amazing, and a collaborative spirit. I love Ben saying that. So, yep, here I am. I loved the mental health aspect. But as I sit and look at where I feel we could use some of these strengths, I don't know. I'm not going to tell.
So this is why it takes so long. And thank you, Brenda, for saying where you were headed, because I do think everybody wants to try to be kind and respectful, and we will. And we want to say, you know, I too thank everyone. I was in your shoes 8.5, almost 9 years ago, and it's very awkward. And now I've been involved in, this is my third appointment since I've been on the board, sitting on this side. I think we get better at it, but it still is weird. And so thank you for your patience, audience and candidates, as we try to sort this out in a way that makes sense. I appreciate Sandy's comments about what's missing or what will be missing on the board. As you all know, there was just an election, and some of us are leaving. So what are the skills and abilities that this board will need to have in the future? And we don't always know that, but I like to think of it that way. So I'm still pondering myself. Full disclosure, Ben is my cousin. Some of you probably know that, some of you don't. You probably can't throw a rock in this town without hitting one of your family members sometimes. So I think if we thought that was, you know, the most important thing, I wouldn't be sitting here, but we've checked all the boxes, and I will be objective, as I have been in the last 3 appointments I've done. So, and I will, you know, work with the board to choose the best candidate. And I don't think someone like Ben should be advantaged by that, me being related to him, or disadvantaged if he's the best candidate. So just in case anyone knew that and was like, oh, what is she doing? I'm just putting it out there. But yeah, I will pause and listen to see if people have had time to think. Sometimes that's a nice part about someone like me who just rambles. You can gather your thoughts and then get ready for your next statements.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Tammy. We did check with our lawyer, and it is about, go ahead.
I can address that.
Dr. Thompson.
The Accountability and Disclosure Act limits conflict of interest involving family members to relatives of board members, and the Nebraska Revised Statute 49-1443.01 defines relative as any person related to another by blood or marriage to the 3rd degree of consanguinity. A cousin is the 4th degree of consanguinity. Therefore, there is no legal requirement for you to recuse yourself.
I'm
Anybody wanna
excited we
repeat
got to
those words?
put consanguinity in the minutes.
I had to practice that.
You're
word. I'll be-
welcome.
So I am going to step up, and I'm going to say, I nominate Beth Shashikant as a candidate.
I'll second that motion.
Isn't the motion different? And then the nominations are,
We
how does
add,
that work?
yeah, we add the names first, and then we go and do the voting motion. Are
Are
there any other
nominations-
motions?
okay.
Any other
Nominations.
nominations? I'm sorry. No, we vote all at once. We do a roll call vote.
But they have to be nominated to be voted
Correct.
on. Okay. And can there be additional discussion now, or does that stop the discussion? Okay,
We
okay.
could have more, but at some point we need to
Right.
vote.
I'm
and
just
then-
thinking,
yeah.
most people just said generally thank you, and everyone did a good job. So just checking on, we're getting better, but it's still confusing what order things go in. So thank you.
I nominate Sasha, is it Bone? Bone? Bone.
Do not need a second on these, correct? That's okay.
Set up.
Yep, no.
Well, then I'll nominate Ben, even though this seems awkward. But I think having someone on the board with kids at Lincoln Montessori is a really interesting perspective that we don't have after I leave. We used to have half the board. Not that you have to have a board member at every school, but it is a really different approach to education and innovation. So I would like to offer that up. I think Brenda noted you know, Ben's approach to innovation and experimentation, and the education level that he brings and the leadership opportunities that he's had with his job that he noted in the comments. So,
Are there any other nominations? I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint the candidate with the majority of votes to fill the open seat for the NPS Board of Education.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Tammy and a second by Jake. Is there any further discussion before our first round of voting?
Can you just specify how many votes does one person need? Three okay. We each get to vote once, obviously, but we need
Yes.
three to.
Everybody gets one vote, but it takes three to get the seat, the
Okay.
appointment.
So if you have other comments, now is the discussion period, so that's when people can say other things.
I'd just like to share that I just think what Sasha would bring to the table is something that is just so out there now with all the districts in Nebraska and the United States, with her expertise on mental health and behavioral health, and on the different boards she's been on. She talks about connecting and engaging, being objective for all students. Her experience on the Mommy and Me, this is where kids are starting before they even get to our district. I think that's a great add on there. Again, 5 kids, you should be commended just for that. And she knows a lot of things that's going on in the district, you know, with the Seesaw app. That's how parents are involved with their kids in our elementary schools in Norfolk, and to realize that and to reach out to the students to help her through the COVID times. And working with the families, again, on mental, emotional health, with the diverse populations that she utilizes her expertise on. And with her flexible schedule, I think she'll really have the time to do the best for the board and be it at the functions that's needed to be on. And I just appreciated when she said that her goal is to stay connected, engaging students and parents, and not just students, but and parents, and to share, and just that teamwork aspect. I just think she would be good at bringing to the table.
Is there any more discussion before we vote?
This is always hard because I feel like there are so many good qualities of all the candidates and different ways you can go. I appreciate Beth's approach to meeting students where they are, and just really focusing on all kids. I heard that from Sasha too, and from Ben, and maybe everyone. It's hard for me to keep up with all the things, but I do think that's really important, that whoever fills this role is able to remember that we serve everybody. We don't choose who comes here, and whoever those kids are, they need our support and our resources, and they need great teachers. So I really do, I think that, you know, everyone had great remarks around that. So I think, you know, maybe there's not a wrong answer, which is a lovely situation to be in. Our community steps up, and I appreciate that. So I'm just, you know, having a hard time sorting out my thoughts. So if anyone else has any other comments, I'd love to hear them.
I'll save mine for the next round. Oh, well, that's true, but when we have 3 nominations, I would think everybody's going to vote for who they nominated, so. Oh, well, that gives everybody
You're not
one vote.
losing math by me leaving.
Okay, well, I know what the time commitment is here, as we all do, and I know that everybody handles time commitments differently, but that was one of the things that I really appreciate about Beth, was I know she has the time and the desire, and she will, it sounds like, be able to give it her all. Not saying that everybody else won't, but I do know that there's a lot of time commitment to this. So everybody just does the best they can and handles as much as they can, but that was one of the things that stood out to me, was that Beth had time.
One thing I liked about a few of the answers that Ben gave were talking about making NPS a benchmark place to work. I think it is in a lot of respects, which is really exciting, but I think anyone who feels like that could be a focus of what they'd like to bring to the table is great. Because again, our teachers and our students are obviously our most important resources, and we need to make sure that that all of their needs are being met. All three candidates certainly said that. So I'm certainly don't think that there's a decline in any of the other two, but I do appreciate Ben mentioning that. One other thing I would mention about Sasha as well, you know, I like the idea that she said that the connection is key. I'm losing the context of how she said it, but it was in her closing remarks, and I do think that that's true. I think it's one of the things that makes NPS a great district, is that there is a lot of those connections through all sorts of, whether it's student to teacher, parent to teacher, and admin to teachers, et cetera. And obviously, I think the more we can foster that, the better. So I think both of them would bring a lot to the table. Beth had some excellent answers as well. So I'm certainly not trying to say anybody would be a bad choice.
No,
This is
we're winning no matter what.
Yeah, we
That's
really
what I'm
are.
gonna say. We are going to win.
We really are.
And that's why this is hard. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but, you know, when it comes down to it, you have to pick someone. And so saying nice things about one person doesn't mean anything negative about someone else, because, you know, I think we've said several times that everyone, you know, had a great interview, and we'd be lucky to have, you know, anyone on the board in that position. So.
And with that, Brenda, did you have something you wanted to say? You don't have to.
No, just all four of these candidates, this is the first time I'd ever seen any of them, so I know nothing about really any of these candidates. So that makes it difficult too, just because it's a sales position too, you know, they're trying to tell. And so they all did a good job with that, and like I said before, Beth and Ben stuck out to me just because I thought that they both said some things that they knew that they had a lot of learning to do, which there is a lot of learning in this job, and also they were more forward-thinking on their approach to and taking this district even bigger and better forward.
I now ask for a vote.
Brenda Carhart. Name.
Say the name. Beth.
Jake Clausen.
Ben Collins.
Tammy Day.
Ben Collins.
Leanne Woodhill. Sandy Wolf.
Beth Shashikon.
There has not been one person that got 3 votes. Round 2.
Round 2. I said, now we talk again.
I do appreciate Ben's perspective on where he talks about the major issues with the teacher retention. And I know pay, we're in that negotiation window right now, so we've got all that in our minds. But a lot of times there's more than the money that Ben said. We need to support and enable and empower our teachers. And I appreciate how he said, you know, make sure they have the resources that they need, not only physical resources, but also, you know, the mental resources too. So I appreciate that part of that discussion.
Oh, weird. It's very difficult to say the same things over and over when we have outstanding candidates. It definitely is.
So I think back to your question, Sandy, what gaps might there be on the board? And what skills and abilities and background, you know, will really fill that void going forward? Because, you know, schools face lots of challenging things. I think somebody mentioned all of the discord that, you know, issues can bring with them. And I think it's important to have somebody who is open-minded, which we had several candidates mention, someone who can think and consider different opinions. I appreciated how Sasha said she didn't have an agenda except that the kids were her agenda. That's the right mindset, because I think if you walk into this position assuming that you know what's going on and what's the best, it will be a shocking situation. So open-mindedness, the ability to reason and to be logical and to think through all sides of an issue, that's a really critical piece that isn't missing, but we have to continue to have big thinkers and people who are willing to set aside. In a lot of cases, we all do that. You know, maybe what our first impression was to get to a decision that is what's best for our teachers and for our kids and for everyone here in the district and for our community. So as I think about, you know, what traits are really critical going forward, I just think we have to really think through, you know, who is that can bring those things here and can be a strong advocate and a strong voice for kids. And I don't, you know exactly, but I felt like, you know, Sasha certainly has a passion for vulnerable people, and kids in lots of ways are vulnerable people and would stand up, you know, for those kids. I also think Ben, you know, showed a lot of leadership qualities in his description, and obviously engineers are big thinkers and logical people. So, you know, there's that to consider too. It is hard when you don't know, you know, you have a few minutes to consider what to do. But I think maybe if we all think about, you know, what positions the board for the future, that's a nice way to kind of reframe it too. Making it less about maybe feeling bad about saying nice things about someone and not someone else, but more about what does the board need.
Also
Great point.
Also with the data that Mary Lou has brought up in our district, that the SPED population is growing, and the vulnerable populations in our district are growing. And so that's why Sasha kind of stuck out in my mind with how her experience with that population, and at the lowest level with the mommy and me, and then, you know, up to her other experiences. That's why she stuck out to me. But again, there's good qualities with everybody.
I think you both make great points, though. You know, when I think about, I don't know Sasha or Ben around their workplace, to be clear, but when I think about what they would deal with in terms of teamwork and conflict resolution and a lot of those things that are very critical to a seat on this board, I think they're both well positioned to help us and to help the district. I think Sasha, maybe I would give a slight edge to for Leanne, some of the things you just mentioned. But again, I certainly appreciated how Ben had some bigger ideas that really resonated with me. But both of them, I think, with their current work experience, would bring a lot of really good things to this board with what they're doing day in and day out.
And Ben talked about too with the STEM and the makerspace, which we're trying to grow in the district, and with your engineering background, I think that's a positive there too, that he would know if are we going in the right direction there to meet the needs of future employers with our kids that are graduating out of the academies. And so that's kind of a great statement there.
It's interesting because I look out at our other three candidates, or our other three board members that are going to be joining us, and I'm like, I wish I could read minds right now. Lindsay, Cindy, and Terry. I really do. I wish I could just, like, you could wink at me or something. But that's irrelevant because honestly, we're voting and it's Brenda and I. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a very difficult decision. So yeah, when we think about, you know, how to round out this board, I think that's the most important thing, is how do we round out this board with skills and personalities and experiences and time, passion. It's a very difficult decision because I think we have outstanding candidates.
Well, and I think too, you know, one thought that I was thinking of is, you know, I think Jenna when she was here, brought a lot of that passion and that well-rounded, I mean, there was rarely a decision she considered if it didn't benefit every possible student in the district. So, you know, again, I think, not that that has to be a one-for-one trade, but that was certainly a really positive thing she brought to the district, and obviously be great to replace that in any way that we could.
Do we have any nominations?
Brenda, what are you thinking? Just pretend like it's just us here. Don't look over there.
I like the way Ben answered his questions. I thought he was the most organized. He was the most, some people I didn't think really answered the question, especially Jake's, like, what's the mission? You know, they kind of talked around it, whereas Jake's, or not Jake's, but Ben's answers are very good, very straight to the point. I could tell that he was a professional, and so I would be glad to work with him. Again, Beth I like just because I think she'll bring a completely different background than any of us have here. I've lived in Nebraska all my life, so this is what I know. And I think everything we do in Nebraska is the best. But, you know, listening to maybe there's some good ideas we can steal from other schools. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. So that's for her side. Either of those two, well, anybody, I will work with any of them, but I thought those two came across as the most qualified by my standards.
I think that's what I saw at Beth as well, is the fact that she's very aware of different needs, the needs of her kids as she moved around a lot. Her husband was in the service, and so she got to experience a lot of different schools and I think states. I never know for sure if it was states or just cities, but I think it's a whole different perspective than any of us have that have just lived in Nebraska. Not that that's a bad thing. No, not at all. But
it's not a bad thing. I mean, but it's just the facts.
Right. It just opens our world a little bit more if we.
I just never known.
Yeah. Right. So.
I am assuming that everything we do in Nebraska is right, but that doesn't mean to do something better even.
4 more rounds, guys. 4 more rounds. Is it 7:10?
And sometimes the rounds are helpful just to process. I mean, you know, it's a lot to take in, so I don't feel like we should feel defeated if we do it again, and, you know, but we're gonna have to get down to some nuts and bolts probably.
Because at 5 we pay for a special election, which we do not want to do. Not that there's any pressure on us, but pressure. I nominate Beth Shashikhan.
I nominate Sasha Bone.
You gonna do it again? I'll nominate Ben again. I'd like to continue the discussion.
Before we vote? You want to discuss before we vote?
Well, I'd like to nominate, yeah, I don't know. I mean, just to give us a chance to think through. I feel like we're not really moving, so I don't know what it's gonna take, yeah, to have, I feel like we keep, which is good, giving, you know, kudos to each person, and then it's a difficult thing to try to find the right solution, but yeah.
Something to think about. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but with Beth, she's only been in the community 2 years, so she doesn't have all the preconceived notions, or she didn't grow up here and like someone because of this or because of that. I mean, she's new. That could be a good thing, that, you know, she loves everybody because she's new, or it could be a bad thing because she doesn't have a clue how our community works. So just something to think about, and it can be however you want to take that.
I guess what we're trying to do is sway each other And if you're not swayable, then you're kind of stuck. But I mean, but of course, when somebody joins the board, we'll be like, yes, I voted for you. I'm so glad.
Well,
Not
and
really.
after
I mean,
that,
it's-
it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
it doesn't matter. We're just trying to get to that place. Because you are all wonderful. Okay, so would somebody like to make the? We have to make the same motion again.
I can. I make the motion to appoint the candidate with the majority of votes to fill the open seat on the NPS Board of Education. And we've got 3 nominees again. Okay.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Brenda and a second by Blake. Is there further discussion?
No, I wish there was an easy answer. That's what I keep looking through my papers, thinking it's going to be clear to me. It is an interesting point that you make, Brenda, about Beth having a different perspective. So I hadn't thought through that. I was thinking that it's more helpful to have someone who has obviously kids in the district, has lived in the community, has, been here and been invested and giving back. And working here. So, but that's something for me to consider that I hadn't before. So thank you for that.
Brenda Carhart,
Beth.
Jake Clausen,
Sasha Bone.
Tammy Day,
I nominated Ben, but I will vote for Beth because I feel like we're kind of at a stalemate here, and I believe she would also do a good job, and I don't want to pay for an election. Yeah, I will vote for Beth.
Leanne Woodhill,
Sasha Bone.
Sandy Wolf.
We have a majority of 3 for Beth Shashikant.
Congratulations, Beth.
Congratulations, Beth. Thank you to all of our candidates.
I would like to thank all of you for putting your names in and for being such strong candidates and making the current board members' jobs really hard in this decision.
We're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we will come back and continue the meeting. Minutes are up. Here we go. This is the time during the meeting when the public may request to address the board. According to state law, if you wish to comment, you must identify yourself, including your address, the name of the organization you represent, if you do, and the topic you wish to address. Public comment cards are located at the media table in the back of the room. Please pick up a card and provide the required information if you plan to speak. Each individual's comments will be limited to 5 minutes. Please note that the board cannot discuss or act upon matters that are not listed on the agenda. Therefore, board members will not respond to your comments or questions. If you wish to request that an item be placed on a future board agenda, you may contact the superintendent or her assistant during normal business hours. Also note that comments or concerns related to school personnel need to be addressed to the superintendent using the approved district protocol. Would anybody like to speak? No. And you also need to please
my name is Nicole Zeman. My children go to Westside Elementary, and I have been made known that they are going to try to move the life room from Westside to only Bel Air. I'm a little upset that the parents at Westside are not notified of this. I found out through a work email, so that was a little disheartening that it feels like it was kind of done behind the back of Westside parents. I'm certain that Norfolk Public Schools Board understands the importance of inclusion for special education students with the rest of the student body. As a parent of a Westside Life Room student, I have appreciated the curriculum that teaches acceptance and value of all students, regardless of their differences. We are no longer in the dark age where special education students are segregated and hidden, discriminated against because they are not quote-unquote normal students. Providing 2 elementary schools with life rooms expose a larger number of students to this valuable lessons of acceptance, of difference in humanity. This lesson will serve every child as they grow and become future leaders of this world. To shuffle all students of the life room to one school separates from the rest of the student body will severely decrease the impact of the valuable lesson of life acceptance.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Okay, thank you. We are going on to information and discussion item 7.1, Finance and Facilities Report. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. The total amount of claims to be approved on the consent agenda for the month of November by specific fund are listed below. The total amount of claims for the month of October in the activities fund is also listed. All these claims were reviewed earlier today by the Finance and Facility Committee. A final audit report has been provided for each board member this evening. It's in the white envelopes in front of you. The audit of the 21-22 financials went well. A summary of the auditor's results can be found on the final page, which is page 55. I am pleased to report that as a district, there were no findings, control, or compliance issues. The audit for 21-22 is attached and also can be found on the district website along with audits from previous years. We also had our fall nutrition program review with lunchtime solutions. This review provides LSI with feedback from students, parents, and staff about the nutrition program. A follow-up to this meeting will be in February. LSI shared what is going on with the program and how they are working through supply chain and labor issues. The feedback really centered around some quality control issues and a system to provide feedback that is easy to have access to. Entertain any questions or comments since we talked about topics with nutrition program and the audit.
Dr. Robinson, I just make a comment, having sat in on that lunchtime solutions, which was super interesting. It was really, really cool to see the students from the high school really giving some valuable feedback and you know, not feedback that was sort of like, well, I wish the food was better. Like real constructive feedback about, hey, this would be better, maybe more home-style meals, or, you know, these types of chips go over better than these. And we all know there are some supply chain issues, but I think we started off maybe with LSI kind of saying, well, everything's a supply chain issue. And I think the more we talked about it, it's like, well, not everything's a supply chain issue. And so I appreciated their willingness, I guess, to listen. Bill and others did a very good job, I think, of holding them accountable for what are some quality control issues or potential issues. So I think that's a real service to our students. I'm also happy to report they did send us a bit of a follow-up to 2 or 3 questions that were brought up within like 24 hours of that meeting, maybe 48 hours of that meeting. So, which is great. You know, again, I think that accountability is what we're looking for from all of our vendors within the district, and it's nice to see that they responded, you know, pretty quickly to some concerns we had. One last thing that I think is a really important thing is Bill and others brought up having the students have in a kind of a real-time ability to say, this is going on or that's going on, and so that is in process, and I think that will be completed here very soon. I don't know if there was a timeline, Bill. I don't recall.
This is going on or that's going on.
Like real time, like, hey, the milk was warm today, or hey, we were out of cheeseburgers in 5B, or any of those types of things. So right now, I think that was one thing we heard from the students, and I appreciate you asking the question, so I could clarify it. I think that was.
Be gone for football? Or
No. Actually, their communication, I think, to the high school, to the junior high, et cetera, is probably really, really good. Probably better than it's ever been in terms of, hey, we may not have this or we may not have that, or we're substituting this. The kids, I feel like, didn't feel like they had a real avenue to say, why weren't there Doritos today? And you know, maybe the answer they may not like, but at least there's an opportunity to ask the question and get some feedback and have that loop closed for them.
Good constructive feedback on ranch dressing that comes up every year. And no, not to be funny, this is real, about ranch dressing.
Ranch dressing. Oh,
Yes.
okay.
High school said you have a big container, and we get it because we love it, but maybe offer one where you have it's a smaller one, because maybe people waste it a little bit because they get to pumping it and it kind of runs over. And then somebody would like some Thousand Island, and you can put them in those smaller containers where you pull this trigger back. I'm trying to say what it is. I've seen it at buffets, but anyway, you know, those are good ideas. And then this real-time feedback, we can put some cue codes out and just say, hey, did you realize today that you ran out of the spicy chicken sandwich in the second lunch? And I really like that. Would you make sure we have enough of those?
And
In the a la carte line.
Does this go along, did they ask for more money, or when's our contract up with them? Was that up? Was that part of the discussion?
No, this is just internal feedback about
Yeah.
their customers, which is the students.
Which we do every year.
We do this every
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
What a great opportunity for kids to
It really was.
advocate in a really low stakes situation.
Yeah.
And to learn to have a voice, even if maybe we laugh about the Dorito feedback or whatever, right? It's still critical to give them safe places to have input and to, you know, say things that matter to them, whether that's ranch dressing or whatever. I really appreciate that they're open to that, and that we're helping facilitate that process. So
I
thank
was
you
really
for that.
impressed with the kids and their feedback, and again, I think to LSI's credit, I think that they were sort of like, all right, keep giving it. You know, I mean, it wasn't like, no, that's not happening. I mean, I think they really did accept the feedback and took it to heart, and again, we got some answers within 48 hours, which was wonderful.
I remember I did one of those right after COVID had finished, and we didn't have to use the packets anymore of ranch dressing, which the kids really were excited about because some of them are, you know, ranch enthusiasts. And so they didn't like opening those packets. So it's a great low stakes. I like that, Tammy.
So at least this will be my final year as a parent because my youngest is graduating, but I felt like, you know, obviously I have a dual role here, but I was still a parent, and Jake as well. And so, yeah, it's a good process, and there's a lot of good things that we've done with that program over the last several years, but quality control with the whole labor and all that, it's something we have to keep this as our #1 goal right now.
Are they fully staffed now? Is that?
They have a few positions that are not filled. Their biggest issue is staff stay for a week or two and then they maybe go to another job. It's just kind of with some of those positions, and we have that in our district too. And some, yeah, a lot of revolving door right now.
Such as the labor market we are in.
Right, but I think we all deal with this. So we can't have that as our crutch. We just got to keep moving forward, so.
I would like to make a note about the audit, if that's okay. Okay.
Oh,
I just wanted
audit.
to note that our independent auditors were very complimentary of the procedures and the safeguards that we have in place at Norfolk Public Schools, and let parents and constituents know that the audit is available on the website in its entirety. But the cliff notes was that it was a clean audit with absolutely no issues. So it was a very healthy report.
And
Excellent
kudos
work.
again, yes, to Dr. Robinson and his staff, because we know how much goes into that to have a clean audit. There is a lot of time and effort and expertise. Thank you.
And we just sort of anticlimactic make a sentence about it. Like, it's a big deal and a lot of time and energy. So thank you, Dr. Thompson, for calling that out. We all got focused on the ranch dressing, and I think our brains got fuzzy and we're hungry. We didn't eat dinner. So kudos to everyone on the audit work. It was truly, you know, every year has just been Norfolk Public Schools does an excellent job. So that's nice.
I work with a great team, not only in the business office, but in our buildings, because once you have a purchase order, there's a whole process of follow through and accountability. And I think we're a well-oiled machine with that, but doesn't necessarily mean that annually you need to check it. There's some things and, you know, and change over time and so forth. So I feel good. We've had clean audits for several years. So, you know, we want to keep that batting record continuing, so.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. We are going on to teaching and learning report. Mrs. Nelson.
Thank you, Madam President. The Teaching and Learning Department has dedicated much of their time this fall to supporting teachers through curriculum cycle work and studying the new standards in math adopted by the State School Board. Small study sessions are scheduled with middle school, junior high, and senior high math teachers to review the changing shifts shown in the updated standards. We are planning to provide district-wide professional development to math teachers on the January ESU 8 Professional Development Day. Public release of statewide assessment data is going out the week of Thanksgiving. As mentioned before, we will review that district data and statewide classifications data, and our original plan was to do that during December board study session. However, we may be doing some other things according to my conversation with Dr. Thompson, but we absolutely will be reviewing that soon. The October Professional Development Day included follow-up training on newly purchased materials for teachers. We received good feedback from teachers on that training. And the October Professional Development Day also included a short session with teachers that are piloting math programs. Illustrative Math, iReady Math, and Amplify Math are under consideration for purchase at various grade levels. The dedication of our pilot teachers needs to be commended. They have amazing insight and desire to serve our students with the best possible materials we can find. And I do want to point out that it is not a top-down decision. This is a collective decision where teachers actually use the program for a while and give feedback. And if at any point teachers say that it's not working, and we collect survey results from them periodically throughout the entire pilot process, just to touch base with them, because we aren't going to continue on something that's not going well for our kids. And we want to, and technically this math decision has been in the process for over a year now. So it isn't taken lightly and it isn't done quickly. So when the pilot teachers pose a recommendation, the Teaching and Learning Department will take that to the Curriculum Committee for review.
Questions. What's a pilot teacher, and how do you choose pilot teachers, and what?
Yep.
Tell me more about that.
Right. So we have a selection of teachers that will use the new product. The companies are pretty good about letting you pilot the product. And
try it out. Pilot.
Right. Try it out. Right. Exactly.
For free?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I've never paid for any pilot because, and I get pretty firm about that. Like, our district's big enough. If we make a decision with your company, you know, this is a sizable thing for your company. So, yes, for free. Also, okay, we start out with volunteers. And the thing is our teachers are so willing to do this. And sometimes we have to tell them no, because then we have too many piloting. And you can over pilot by having too many. You have to allow, there's just kind of a sweet spot in the amount of people that you allow to pilot. Also, you have to negotiate that with the company too, what they will allow, how much they'll allow you to use for free.
When will the public release of statewide assessments, where will that be released? Where can I find it?
You will be able to find it probably in your local newspaper as well as on the Nebraska Department of Education website. And it's called Nebraska Education Profile. Yeah.
And as a board member, we'll send you the information as well, but publicly, that's how others can find it.
You'll get more information than you want, probably.
Thank you.
And I would second, Mrs. Nelson does a great job of negotiating the bottom dollar price. I've witnessed it for several years, and she does. She really works hard at that because we are a big ticket item for these companies.
Thank you, Beth. Did you have anything, Tammy? No. Oh, thank you. Okay, we are to student programs report. Mrs. Luer.
Thank you, Madam President. Our October 1st count for the 2022 school shows an increase in the number of students in the ELL and special education programs. The increase of ELL went from 4.7% to 5%, an increase of 20 students total. Special education went from 16.2% to 18%, increasing of 95 students of the total student population. The Tri-State Special Education Law Conference was held November 3rd and 4th. There were breakout sessions regarding transitioning of students beyond high school, mental health for both staff and students, as well as special education staff shortages. Are there any questions?
Does ELL just mean English second language, so they could be very competent, they just don't speak English as a first language? Is that what
English
that means?
language learners, yes. Yep.
Special education, they may have, they
They
know
have a
English.
verified disability.
They just have another disability. That's the difference. Okay.
Thank you, Mary. Student services report. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the district safety team and I attended the two-day NDE Safety Summit in Kearney on October 18th and 19th. I presented on a panel to provide information regarding our implementation of Safe to Help as our anonymous reporting system. Our team also attended multiple sessions to gather information about psychological first aid, standard response protocol, and active threat assessment. Along those lines, the I Love You Guys Foundation will be in Norfolk on November 17th to provide train the trainer instruction on SRP and SRM. SRM is standard reunification. For members of our safety team, emergency response personnel, and other educators across Northeast Nebraska. Just a reminder that there are people in those fields who are interested in attending. Please reach out to me for more information. And then finally, we completed all of our fall parent-teacher conferences near the end of October. Attendance numbers are posted below. As a district for the fall 2020 conferences, we were at 65.7%. Fall attendance last year was 70.08%, and this year we were at 72.66%. As always, it's great to see parents attend those conferences. If you're not able to attend conferences for your student, I encourage you to reach out to your student's school. They'll be happy to discuss your student's educational plan and progress with you. Any questions?
You Guys Foundation, what's their main mission? That sounds, that's just
The I Love You
Never
Guys
heard of that.
Foundation is the foundation that came up with standard response protocol, standard reunification method, which is used by schools across the nation
Over where they
out of
based-
Colorado.
They formed after Columbine.
Correct.
Thank you, Eric. Human Resources and Accreditation Report, Mrs. Bauman.
Thank you, Madam President. Since the last board meeting, I have attended the Wayne State College Student Teacher Fair, spoken to Wayne State College NENTA students, and was one of 5 participants in the Wayne State College Cohort to Career Symposium. This symposium was designed to provide students with information and experiences on navigating from college to a career. I'm continuing to work to gain the interest of potential teachers to apply at MPS for upcoming teaching positions.
Thank you, Angie. We are to the superintendent's report. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson's gonna put, there we go. All right, so we took a good look at student enrollment, and I did student enrollment projections for the next 5 years. Taking a look at the first slide, student enrollment data from the Nebraska Department of Education indicates that the pre-K-12 enrollment within the city of Norfolk has increased by 494 students in the last 12 years, a 9% increase. Our public school enrollment has increased by 771 students, which is 19%. Private school enrollment has decreased by 277 students, or 21%. So we are seeing nice, healthy growth within our public school system. When you take a closer look at our enrollment data, you see that prior to the pandemic, our enrollment was steadily increasing. However, we lost 130 students, or 2.8% of our student population at the beginning of the pandemic. That decrease in enrollment was consistent with schools across the nation. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, the PK-12 enrollment across the United States decreased by 1.4 million students, or 3%, between the fall of 2019 and the fall of 2020. Fortunately, our enrollment has been increasing since that initial pandemic year. It grew by 27 students last year and another 47 students this year, for a total increase of 74 students, or 1.7%. And our enrollment projections for the district indicate that enrollment will continue to grow at a nice steady rate of 0.5% to 1% each year. Variance is expected at individual building levels, which I'll talk about in a little bit, as we have unusually small and unusually large classes advancing through different grade levels. For example, this year's 5th grade class, the class of 2029, is a very small class, and that plays a big role in those variances. Currently, we have 1,641 students in the elementary, grades K through 4. That number is expected to increase in the upcoming years, reaching a high of 1,673 in the year 2027. However, the extra tracks that we have built at Bel Air Elementary and Lincoln Montessori Elementary should be sufficient to meet our elementary needs for the foreseeable future. Even with those increases in enrollment, our average class size will remain at 22, which is an acceptable level. We have hired all the staff that is necessary at Bel Air for their extra track, but we do need to hire one more 3rd/4th grade teacher to complete our final track at Lincoln Montessori. And we will need to continually look at enrollment projections by building. I don't have those completed at this time, to see if our boundaries need to be adjusted in order to keep building and class sizes equitable across the district. One thing I know is we were seeing Woodland Park's enrollment decreasing, but that trend has reversed in the last couple of years with all of the housing developments going in that area of town. Our current enrollment at the middle school is 600 due to the lingering effects of the pandemic and that unusually small class of 2029, which is in the 5th grade. Middle school enrollment is expected to increase significantly as larger classes move into the 5th and 6th grade. We should hit a high of 680 students in 2027, or in 2025, then lower to 675 in 2027, for an average core class size of 24. We have invested in additional English, language arts, math, science, and social studies teachers at the middle school, but not specials. Those courses are a little bit larger class sizes. The staffing additions, I just said that, never mind. Sorry. One thing we do need to keep in mind, however, is that our building is at capacity with pretty much every inch of that facility being used for teaching. And our special classes are already large. And in addition to that, the entrance to the middle school doesn't meet the same safety standards as our other buildings, so we are anticipating an addition to the middle school in the near future. Current enrollment at the junior high is 641. That number is expected to temporarily decrease with a low of 595 in 2024, when the class of 2029 enters the 7th grade. But then it will increase to 680 in 2027. Additional classroom space and staff were already added to the junior high, and we are in the process of additional facility improvements to address outdated and out-of-compliance locker rooms, restrooms, and weight room facilities. So I don't anticipate any other additions at this time. Our current enrollment, I don't have my senior high one in front of me. It's not in there either? Oh, goodness. Hold on a second. I somehow got 2 junior high pages and no senior high page.
It's 47 new students this year. How many of those are Ukrainian students?
10? Yeah.
I appreciate seeing the data. I know before COVID, we were looking at this very closely because this was the trend. Took a little blip like most things in our life for the last couple of years, and it looks like that is rebounding. So I think that's really an interesting trend line to look at, that it had nothing to do with the district or Norfolk community's growth, but it was more about the situation. So it's nice to see the numbers again and have a chance to see a bright future for our district and our enrollments continuing to increase. Did you find
Okay,
it?
I don't have a pretty slide for you, but our current enrollment at the senior high is 1,346. That number is expected to fluctuate in upcoming years as small classes move through those grade levels. A high of 1,380 is expected in 2025. We will need to really monitor the enrollment at the senior high level as space is very limited. We have added a lot of additional programs to the senior high, so it is possible that additional classroom space and staffing may be warranted in the future. Looking in terms of demographics, 61% of our students are white, 29% are Hispanic, 2% are Black, 2% Native Americans, 1% Asian, and 5% are 2 or more races. And that does vary by building at the elementary level. As Mary Luer said, our special ed numbers are increasing significantly. We are now at 18% of our population having a disability, and the intensity of the student needs is increasing as well. Our ELL population has been fairly stable for the last several years at about 5%, but we are seeing more newcomers, so those students that have little or no English whatsoever. And when I first started here, we had 3 different languages in Norfolk Public Schools, and we now have 10. The number of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch is also increasing. As a district, 53% of our students qualify for free or reduced price meals based on their family's income level. And that amount varies widely by building. Over 70% qualify at Westside, Jefferson, and Washington, and 81% of the students at Grant qualify for free or reduced lunch meals. I think it's also interesting to note that the number of students who qualify based upon completed paperwork decreases from middle school to junior high to senior high. Really don't believe that's a difference in the population. It's just students are less likely to fill it out at that age level.
Fills it out.
The parents fill it out, but
Okay, so you get these numbers by the amount of returns for free and reduced. Okay, so there might be more that just don't return. Okay. This is who all gets free and reduced lunches.
are there any questions?
Thanks for the information.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. We are to committee reports. We'll begin with Finance and Facilities, and that was Brenda Carhart.
The committee met at 12 noon today. The claims for the month of November and activity claims for October were reviewed. The vendors who submitted proposals for insurance services provided additional information to the committee as requested. A recommendation for insurance services will be brought to the board in December. Other items reviewed and discussed, updates on current district projects, meaning Bel Air, Jefferson, those. Review of request to hire an engineer for the 6th Street track project. Review of the Chromebooks purchases. Review of the certified negotiations process for 22 and 23. The next meeting will be December 12th at 12 noon.
Thank you, Brenda. Brenda, would you like Policy Committee report?
With only 5 board members, there's lack of committee members. So it's just Sandy and I at Finance and Facilities, and it was just Tammy and I at Policy, so that we have less people to report on it. The Policy Committee met on October 28th to review board policies 1200 through 1320 related to community relations. Only minor, non-substantive changes were recommended. For instance, a redundant sentence was removed from Policy 1320, and a spacing issue was remedied in Policy 1240. The policy recommends the approval of the first reading of these policies contained in this section.
Thank you, Brenda. 8.3 is Activities Committee report. Tammy Day.
This will not be as exciting as a space being removed, but I'm going to give Brenda a break from reading. And I'm on the Policy Committee and probably was the one who said there was a space. The Activities Committee met on October 17th. John Irwin and Amber Linton provided the committee with an update on fall sports and uniform purchases. Mr. Irwin told the committee that shot clocks have been installed in the main gym at the senior high per NSAA guidelines. They will only be used at the varsity level, so they are not needed in the auxiliary gym. Dr. Thompson let the committee know that the extra duty schedule will be discussed as part of negotiations with NCEA, and Dr. Robinson shared information regarding the need for the repairs to the junior high and senior high tracks, which Brenda referenced in the Finance and Facilities report, and you will see the 6th Street track on the agenda later for an action item. The last meeting of the year for this committee is December 19th.
Thank you, Tammy. 8.4 is the Superintendent Evaluation Report. All board members filled out Dr. Thompson's evaluation, and there were comments, and then we compiled them with the help of Mary. And then we had the review with Dr. Thompson today. She scores really high and is an outstanding leader. Her skills are amazing. She's well respected in not only Norfolk, but throughout the state. She is an outstanding advocate for NPS. She's a tireless worker that always has kids' interest in the forefront of every decision she makes. And she also is part of GNSA and has led as the president and works in the, works really well in the legislative committee. So she's very well-rounded, and there was no place where there was concern. Thank you all.
Yeah, I thank everybody for taking the time to give the feedback. I think it's a really important process that we go through, because that's our main job. You know, we don't do staffing things really. We don't do any of those other things. So, and we are fortunate to have a great administrative team here led by Dr. Thompson. I think Sandy, you know, you had a lot of great comments about her leadership and advocacy across the state. She's always standing up for teachers and kids. And so we're very fortunate. So thanks everybody for putting the time in to give the comments, because that was very obvious in reading through the evaluations.
Okay, 8.5 is the Norfolk Public Schools Foundation report. Brenda Carhart.
The Norfolk Public Schools Foundation Board of Directors met on October 17th at 4:30 at the MPS Administration Building. 9 board members are present, plus 6 guests, including 2 prospective new board members. Board President Jake Clausen called the meeting to order at 4:32. The board reviewed the meeting minutes from September and the financial reports from August. The foundation was preparing for our Traditions Breakfast on Thursday, October 27th at 7 a.m. at the Lifelong Learning Center. It's our main fundraiser for the year, where we plan to celebrate the tradition of academic excellence at Norfolk Public Schools. All funds raised by this event will benefit the Norfolk Public Schools Foundation and will help support students and teachers in our district. So far, over 70 donors have helped sponsor the event, and we have raised over $35,000, surpassing our goal. Thank you to our sponsors. So yes, we did meet our goal, raised a lot of money. Board members were asked to consider serving as an officer or committee chair for next year. The slate of officers will be approved at our annual meeting in January. Members also will choose what committees they will serve on: scholarships, grants, marketing, finance, board development, and executive committee. Our next board meeting is going to be a good one, because we meet at the Norfolk Middle School on Monday, and we get to see the new makerspace room and see all the great things that our grant that we got through the foundation to the school has done for the makerspace program.
And the Traditions Breakfast, I think, was Dr. Thompson's best speech ever.
It was so good.
So good.
Had a lot of compliments from a lot of different people in the community of just, I think the positivity that you brought was really, really appreciated, as well as really some of the data that you brought that dispelled, I think, some notions that might have been floating about in our community of what was actually going on. So kudos. Great job.
Thank you, Brenda. We are to the consent agenda. So we start with the minutes of the previous minutes, and they are attached for your review. 9.2 is personnel. We have no contracts to approve, but we do have a resignation. Dr. Thompson.
Yes, unfortunately, I do have a resignation for your consideration. Bobby Burnt, first grade teacher at Grant Elementary School, has submitted a resignation that would be considered for December 31st due to relocation of her husband's job. That would be obviously contingent on us finding a suitable replacement.
And is there such a thing, Angie?
We have advertised the position pending approval tonight to seek a replacement, and we do have some applicants. So if approved tonight, interviews will be scheduled for tomorrow. The interviews won't be held tomorrow. Gosh, people are panicked if they applied right now. Like, they're tomorrow? Candidates will be contacted for interviews if approved tonight.
Well, that's exciting. That's good that there's
It's
already
great.
some potential applicants.
Good, because there are teachers that may graduate. It's semester, so we might get some new teachers. Yeah. Is there
Make a motion to accept the resignation of Bobby Burnt, contingent on finding a suitable replacement.
Second that.
We have a motion by Brenda and a second by Leanne. Is there any further discussion?
Excuse me, usually we do the whole consent agenda.
Oh, yeah. We don't have to do that alone? A resignation?
We typically do them as part of the other.
Okay. Never mind.
Do you have to rescind or some formal Robert's Rules language, or Mary just makes it happen?
finish it either because it was
Oh, good.
Never mind. Okay, 9.3 is claims. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. Attached are the claims for the month of November. These claims were reviewed earlier today by our Finance Facility Committee. There are some conflict statements for this month that will need to be read before voting.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a correct motion from Leanne with a second by Tammy. Is there any discussion?
I, out of abundance of caution, I hereby declare a potential conflict of interest, and I'm abstaining from voting on Claim 160 and 571 for the month of November and the consent agenda for this meeting. It's paying for my motel room at the Nebraska State Board Convention. I have signed and filled this written disclosure with the Secretary of the Board. It is my intent to vote on all other remaining items listed on the consent agenda. My vote on the remainder of the consent items should not be taken as a vote one way or the other on the item which I have identified or any other matters set forth therein or related thereto.
I also have a conflict statement, and also out of an abundance of caution, I hereby declare a potential conflict of interest, and I am abstaining from voting on claim number 576 for the month of November in the consent agenda for this meeting. I have signed and filed this written disclosure with the Secretary of the Board. It is my intent to vote on all other remaining items listed on the consent agenda. My vote on the remainder of the consent agenda items should not be taken as a vote one way or the other on the items which I have identified or any of the matters set forth therein or related thereto.
Out of an abundance of caution, I also have a conflict statement. I hereby declare a potential conflict of interest, and I'm abstaining from voting on Claim 586 for the month of November in the consent agenda for this meeting. I have signed and filed this written disclosure with the Secretary of the Board. It is my intent to vote on all other remaining items listed on the consent agenda. My vote on the remainder of the consent items should not be taken as a vote one way or the other on the items which I have identified or any of the matters set forth therein or related thereto.
I too have a conflict statement. Out of an abundance of caution, I hereby declare a potential conflict of interest, and I am abstaining from voting on Claim 581 for the month of November in the consent agenda for this meeting. I've signed and filed this written disclosure with the Secretary of the Board. It is my intent to vote on all other remaining items listed on the consent agenda. My vote on the remainder of the consent items should not be taken as a vote one way or the other, which I've identified, or any of the matters set forth therein or related thereto.
So it's Nebraska Association of School Boards meeting time, and as school board members we're attending, and that's why there are multiple conflict statements. This is unusual.
I actually have one clarification. Jake, you no longer have a conflict of interest because you're not going to the conference. Cindy Brown is taking your spot, so there is no conflict.
It's a fun thing to read, though, so that was nice. Good job.
So based on that, because these claims were public Thursday, and I will have a claim adjustment in December to show that, okay? Because that's full transparency on the claims, okay? Because as posted, that's the way it was when it went live Thursday.
That is correct,
Okay.
yes.
So we can still vote as it stands, and then we'll do an adjustment. Okay,
Because that
great.
is how the claims stood, yep.
Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, guys, hang in there. We are to action items. 10.1, discuss, consider, and take action to approve an engineer for the junior high track. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. The junior high track is in need of extensive repair. When I say the junior high track, this is the one that's a few blocks to the south of the junior high, commonly called the 6th Street track. The surface is getting beyond basic repairs of cracks that have been occurring over the past several years. The cracks throughout the track have become quite large and are now posing some potential safety issues. Having a qualified engineer review and determine the best course of action is our next step that is needed. And I believe there's some pictures that can be shown?
Yes, I put a slideshow together of pictures of the junior high track. The first couple just show that there are a lot of cracks on the track. This shows the size of some of the cracks are, even an inch wide. We put the key there to show that perspective. And now we get into where you're seeing that our repairs are not holding up. Those were repaired once and obviously now need to be repaired again. I think some of them have been repaired several times. And I think the next slide will just show more of that. This is just the extensive patches on the left and how terribly they're holding up on the right. I had hoped that Dr. Robinson was exaggerating about the condition of the track, but we went and walked it before it got cold, and it's probably dangerous at this point.
And several of our patrons use that track. We don't lock it up, so it is available to our community, and we need it to be safe. So I think this is something that's very important.
I'll make a motion to hire an engineer to develop specs and bid documents for the junior high track.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Brenda and a second by Jake. Is there any further discussion?
I would like to say if we move forward with this, we would not be able to have it done by track season. So we would have to do some repairs, some temporary repairs, and then do the major renovation or whatever you want to call it later on.
The cold patch that you see for potholes will be used, and whatever else I can think of with the maintenance department, because we'll have to get through the spring. So,
Did I already say please vote? Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. 10.2 is discuss, consider, and take action to approve the hiring of a half-time English teacher. Dr. Thompson.
Half-time English language learner teacher. Okay. We have been notified that we should have 7 or 8 more students arriving from Ukraine in November. Our ELL teachers already have full caseloads, which means that we need additional help. Fortunately, we do have a teacher on staff who has an ELL endorsement, but is teaching reading in the morning and subbing in the afternoon. She is willing and able to teach ELL in the afternoon instead of subbing. So doing this would not actually increase our cost as she is on a full-time contract. However, we would technically be adding a half-time ELL teacher to our staff, and the addition of certified staff requires board approval. So I am requesting approval for the addition of a half-time ELL teacher.
Would she start with her ELL job after they come? I'm just, because, you're told they're going to come, but we never know for sure when they're going to come, so it would.
Yes, we would wait to make the change until we see some additional students. But we really don't have much room in her schedule to accommodate any additional students at this point. I can let Mary add to that.
Actually, there is a need. We did. Woodland Park, Ukraine. So we have a total of 8 newcomers at Woodland Park, and I've never had that. I didn't have that last year. I had a total of 3 students in the ELL program last year. So that number plus the number, because my teacher who serves Woodland Park and Jefferson has a total of 15 newcomers, and that takes a lot of time with newcomer students. If you remember, Leanne asked me a while back, was I staying on top of that? So with the new students, there became a need that we need to be able to support our non-newcomers as well as our newcomers. And the newcomers' hours, the amount of instruction they need requires more teacher time. So the intent with that would be that we would look at moving that person to help us in the afternoons.
Are you saying it should be moved right away? Because
they're going to look at the schedule tomorrow if this is approved.
Okay, so I retract what I said. I was not aware that we already had some coming in that came in last week.
Yeah.
I just knew they were coming in November, so.
So we were headed that way anyway, and now it's from your newcomers, it's even more critical to do this sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we're putting her in place so that as they come in as well, that we are prepared and have that schedule set up. I know that my current ELL teacher is really working hard and is excited for the opportunity to possibly have support with that.
I'd make a motion to approve the hiring of a half-time English language learner teacher.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Jake and a second by Brenda. Is there any further discussion?
Thanks for the information. Appreciate it.
Just a question. I know we've worked hard to have some permanent subs, and so taking her out of that halftime, will you look in the future to try to find a more permanent sub replacement?
I began advertising about 2 weeks ago. We generally, the last couple years, we've added at semester when we have student teachers that finish up in December or, you know, others that might move in the area. So I have advertised it and do have applicants.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. We are to 10.3. Discuss, consider, and take action to purchase Chromebooks. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Madam President. We have received a grant for $380,000 in additional emergency connectivity funds to allow us to purchase 950 Chromebooks for kindergarten, first, and second grade. I'm asking for permission to move forward with that. We did the RFP for this back in May.
And this will put us at 1-to-1 from K to 12. Correct.
Correct.
Awesome.
I make a motion to purchase 950 Chromebooks.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Leanne and a second by Tammy. Is there any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Mr. Wilson, do you know
Thank
off
you,
the
Mary.
top of your head how much we have received in emergency connectivity funds? We have taken a great advantage of that program.
That'd be over $1 million.
That is awesome. 10.4, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the first reading of Board Policy 1200 to 1320. Dr. Thompson.
As reported by Brenda Carhart earlier, only minor, non-substantive changes have been made to these policies, and they are recommended for approval of first reading.
Make a motion to approve the first reading of board policies 1200 through 1320 related to community relations.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Brenda and a second by Tammy. Is there any discussion?
I just always like to thank the policy committee. That is not the most glamorous work that we do, but it is important, and thank you for being efficient and also being complete in your review of those policies.
And every year I'm like, how are you still finding mistakes?
Some of us nerds like to do that kind of stuff, so.
Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. That takes us to the end of the meeting. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Monday, December 12th, 2022. The study session will begin at 5:30 p.m. The regular business meeting will start at 6:30 p.m. All components of these meetings will be held at the Norfolk Public Schools Central Administration Offices and will be open to the public unless an executive session is needed in order to protect the interest or the district or the reputation of an individual. With that, we do need to go into executive session.
Can remind people to come to the transition house tomorrow. It's a good one. They've done good things there. So from 3:45 to 5 p.m. at the transition house.
I will make a motion to go into executive session to discuss negotiations as needed to protect the interests of the district.
Second that.
Motion by Tammy, second by Leanne. Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary.